Good day, students. Welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I am broadcasting to you live from beautiful Budapest, where the weather is starting to cool down, indicating winter will be coming soon. Perhaps a bit of snow. I hope everybody's doing great. Today, we are doing IELTS listening strategies for part 3 and 4. These materials are coming from our websites for academic IELTS. Check us out at aehelp.com. I'll put the URL up here so you can refer to it anytime. If you're doing general IELTS, go to gieltshelp.com. You can join our premium courses there, and they will help you to improve your scores. Students who join, who use the materials, always report 1-band, 2-band improvements in a month or two. So definitely try it out. You can download our app from your Play or iTunes store. Look for our logo. Look for Academic IELTS Help app. You can also get our books from Amazon. AE Helps Academic IELTS. There's 2 exam books if you search for that. And GE Helps General IELTS. A couple of exam books if you search for that. If you have questions about our products or about IELTS, you can always send me an email. I'm happy to help you. Just send it to my name, Adrian, A-D-R-I-A-N, at aehelp.com, and I'll be happy to help you as best as I can. All right, today we're doing listening part 2 and 3. We did listening part 1 and 2 yesterday with some strategies, some great attendance. So if you missed it, don't worry, it's still up on our channel. After this class, you can go back and do that part as well. Tomorrow we're doing speaking part 1 and 2, and then on Saturday we have a members chat task 2 open question. Of course, if you're a member of our YouTube channel, you get access to our 6 exams that we use in these live classes. You get access to some private videos that are exclusive, and you also are able to request these classes. All right, so here's a quick review of tips from yesterday's class. Remember, try to get 9 out of 10 or a perfect score in section 1. Try to get a high score in section 2, because as you will see today, section 3 and section 4 are a little bit more difficult than section 1 and 2. So you want to maximize your score in section 1 and 2. Another strategy is you have to practice timing. Even if you have good English skills and you say, IELTS, easy peasy, no problem. I have great English. I have years of experience. I should do fine. That's a good starting point if you have strong English skills, for sure. Still, do a couple of practice exams. Get the timing of the exam. That will help you to get a higher score, just if you know the format and the timing. Hi, Naveen. Hi, Ahmed. Hi, Ali. Good to see so many students joining in. All right. Another strategy, of course, is visualize. So picture the topics when you're reviewing them. And importantly, include yourself in those visualizations. So be active in the information, in your imagination. Don't picture information as if it's in the distance or you're looking on a movie screen or at a movie screen. Imagine you are the actor. You are that person. Be in there, okay? All right. Let's everybody get a pencil and paper ready. We will go right into section 3, listening here, just to get you warmed up. We'll talk strategy after. If you were here in yesterday's class, that's great. You'll be able to have a combined score. We'll look at your band score at the end. So for now, get your paper and pencil ready. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please be nice to each other, and don't write your answers into the chat while the listening is going. So while the listening is going, just write your answer on a piece of paper. After we're finished listening, you will have a chance to show your answers, to share them with other students. So don't do it. Don't write into the chat while you're listening, okay? Please. All right. To access the audio materials For our listening, you log into one of our websites. The first one you saw was general. This is our academic. Log in at the top. This is an admin panel, so let's just log into the actual website. So when you log in, you'll have your My Student account opening up. And then once you're in your My Student account, the fifth tab, of course you can use this on your phone or tablet. It's designed for all of those. And we are looking at exam 6 today, so it's CD6. And it will be track number 3 because we're starting with section number 3 for those of students who actually have our books. Of course, our members should have these books, and you should be looking at them. Okay, so here we go.
Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Listening, section 3. You will hear a radio host and his guest discussing the virtues of various art forms. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Our next guest is the curator of a major art gallery in the city who has just released his second book on the virtues of art. We're pleased to have Mr. Edgar Patterson here today. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here, and please call me Edgar.
Edgar, of course. Now, in your first book, published 4 years ago, you focused on performance artwork such as plays, musical concerts, films, and other such works. Your second book is a little closer to home for you. It concerns purely creative fine art.
Well, yes. It deals with the aesthetic virtue of different painting styles.
Okay, so give our viewers a quick rundown on what your book is about. Does it make an argument? I mean, does your book take a position on a certain issue in the world of art?
Yes, my book does take a position, and a rather radical one. The main thesis of my book is that the meaning we associate with a painting exists purely within ourselves. This is in stark contrast to many commentators who believe that the author of a painting gives the painting its meaning. Under this framework, if an artist intends his painting to represent the fear of an orphan child, then this is the one and only meaning such a painting can have. We might call this the intention theory of art. Conversely, my theory is that no matter what the intention of the author is, the meaning of the painting comes from the viewer. The meaning is exactly what the viewer thinks it is. This solves an important problem with the intention theory of art, namely that we do not have access to the mind of the artist, and therefore we do not have access to the painting's meaning at all.
Very interesting, Edgar. But doesn't the intention theory work as a sort of grounding for artistic analysis? What I mean is, while we might not know the meaning the artist intended, isn't the point of art to try to discern this meaning? If art is just whatever we want it to be or feel it as, doesn't that somehow make it less valuable?
That's an astute critique of my position, but one I have an answer for. My response is that art is not merely what we want it to be or feel it as. We can still participate in our critique and interpretation. All I want to say is, in the end, it is up to us to discern the meaning and value of paintings on our own.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 27 to 30.
Now, let's talk about one type of controversial art, abstract art. How does your, can I call it a subjective theory of meaning?
Yes, that is fair.
Okay. How does your subjective theory of meaning apply to something like modern or abstract art? Art which doesn't tell an obvious story or have a clear meaning. Many people think that such works of art have no meaning at all.
It's certainly an interesting case, but one which my theory is well matched to deal with. You see, abstract art has its critics. Like you say, they think it has no meaning at all. However, other people think abstract works of art have all sorts of meanings. Now, under the intention theory, most of these commentators will be wrong, since the work of art either has a meaning or it doesn't, and if it does, then it only has a single meaning. So under the intention theory, only those critics who discern the specific meaning of the artist will be successful. My theory, however, results in each critic being correct in their own way. For example, if, after critically analysing a certain abstract work of art, I determine it is meaningless, then it is meaningless. Because the meaning of an artwork comes from within, I cannot be wrong, and neither can other people. The critic who sees a metaphor for suffering and the critic who views it as something entirely different are both right. We are all correct in our interpretation, as long as we've given the painting a fair critique.
What do you mean by a fair critique?
Well, I mean it is not enough to merely look at a painting and write it off immediately as meaningless. One must go through a certain process. That said, there are certainly other...
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, so that is a listening section 3. Now, some of you might think, hey, that was way too difficult. It's about art. I don't care about art. I don't know anything about art. I can't do this. It's tough. I really hope I don't get this kind of a section 3 when I sit my IELTS. That is not how you should be thinking about information that you're not familiar with, because IELTS can always be a surprise and there can always be topics that you're not familiar with. You yourself as the student need to use logic and critical thinking. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but first let's go through the answers and see how some of you did. Let's see how many of you focused and got some of these correct. Let's go back to the multiple choice. Now, multiple choice, you should try to think about the answer from your own mind, and of course not guess or not try to pull the answer from your choices. Let's talk about number 21. How many books has this guest written? So let's see what you've answered. Bayan says the answer is B, which is 2. Absolutely, okay. Vishit, 2 is correct. Just make sure that in your answer sheet you don't put 2. That would be a mistake because you need to put the letter B here. Okay, so be very careful not to make a silly mistake in the answer sheet. So the correct answer here is B, which is 2. Okay, yeah, that's right, Vishit. Good, you caught that. All right, yeah, don't make air balls or don't make silly mistakes. Okay, so B is good there. All right, number 22. What description does the guest give his book's thesis? So what description does the guest give his book's thesis? Now, here, both the author and the host repeated this answer. And Shushma Pradhan says it's A. It's a position, right? It's not about the intention theory. His book actually contrasts the intention theory. So I believe the correct answer here was A. But we will look at the answer sheets. So it takes a position. And the man says, yes, it's a position. Okay? So it should be a position. All right. Which statement best describes the intention theory of art? Now, theory, don't overcomplicate, means idea in this case. And intention, that's a very important word to know. If you don't know the word intention, it might be difficult for you to get a good score here. Intention means what we want to do. Okay? So the author creates an artwork's meaning. The meaning comes from the viewer. There is no meaning outside of the viewer's intention. Shanu, very nice to see you in class. You're saying, hey, that's A, intention. The author creates the artwork's meaning. So the author creates the artwork's intention is another way to say it, and that should be correct. So I believe A is the correct answer there as well. It means that the artwork's meaning is what the author intends it to be. So if the author paints a picture of a child playing with a ball, then that is the meaning of the picture. It's a child having fun playing with the ball. Okay, number 24. What is the biggest problem with the intention theory? So number 24, what is the biggest problem? We do not have access to the mind of the artist. The intention is not our own, so we cannot discern it. It lacks grounding. And Jeffrey, good to see you in class. I think you missed the first one this week. Naveen, good. Yeah, good answers. Shanu, 3 members answering correctly in a row. Very nice. Daxil, good job. Vishit, good job. Yeah, we don't have access to the mind of the artist. So if we're looking at a painting and the artist or the author of the painting or the work is not there, it's really hard to figure out what they want to state, especially if it's an abstract art. So A is the correct answer there. Okay? We don't have access to the mind of the author. Okay? All right. Questions 25 to 26. Right, no more than 2 words and or a number for each answer. According to the host, one of the main goals in art critique is to understand a painting's what? Simple. It's fill in the blanks, 2 words maximum. Number 25. What's the missing word? What is the missing word? That makes a lot of sense. Jeffrey says the word is meaning. Jubilant agrees. Daxil agrees. Daxil, just make sure that you write that with a small m in the actual exam, not a big M, because it's in the middle of the sentence, and it's just the noun. So, yeah, meaning. Now, some of you said you missed that, but it's easy. Even if you have to guess, okay? According to the host, one of the main goals in art critique is to understand a painting's meaning. So even if you missed this one, and a couple students said, I missed that one, you could guess that one, okay? That's not a tough one, all right? Don't leave blanks in the IELTS because you don't get negative marks for wrong answers. So don't leave blanks, okay? Make sure that you answer. Yes, logic absolutely works, Jeffrey, and that's one of the strategies for today. Number 26. The guest responds that art is not something what we want it to be, but that we must also participate in critique and interpretation. Aditya says the word there is merely. And you're correct, Aditya. Good answer. Merely. Merely is a fancy way of saying just, but in this case you had to catch that word. It's not just what we want it to be, but that we must also participate. So this one you actually had to catch it, okay? Merely is a synonym for just. All right, good job, Vishit. Okay, and then the second half of listening section 3 here, we had a table completion. So here it gives you, pay attention to the instructions because it says you have to choose between right or wrong for each question. So even if you guess, you have a 50-50 chance, it's the flip of a coin, to get these correct, so you don't have to panic, okay? So in this situation, you're comparing 2 different theories. Pay attention to the headings. So you're comparing the intention theory, which believes that art is what the artist wants it to be. And then you're comparing it to the subjective meaning theory. And this theory says, according to this discussion, that art is what people want it to be. So the viewer or the observer can give meaning to art. So here, the critic thinks critically about an artwork and judges it to have no meaning. The intentions theory would say that the critic is, and I see a lot of you saying it's wrong. Adrian, write the word wrong. Yeah, so it makes sense to say that the critic is wrong. Why? Because the author intends a meaning. Therefore, it must have a meaning. So the critic is most likely wrong in this case. The critic does not think critically about an artwork and judges it to have no meaning. Again, both of these are wrong. We're given wrong here because here the author gives the meaning. Okay. Now, according to the subjective meaning theory, the critic is right or wrong. It's a little bit of a tricky one. Aditya says wrong. Vishit says right. Rakhma says wrong. Naveen says right. So I would say that the correct answer is wrong. This was a little bit more difficult. Remember what the author says. The author says that you can't just look at a picture. Doesn't matter who you are. You can't just look at a picture and say, it has no meaning. You have to at least look at it critically. You have to look at it carefully. And here, there's this important word, does not think critically. So they just look at it, quick glance, and it has no meaning, and there we go, I'm out of here, off to the next art gallery. They're wrong. You can't just quickly look at a painting and say it has no meaning. You have to at least give it a chance. So I believe the correct answers here, from what I understood, is wrong and wrong. So the critic understands the author's meaning. The critic is, for the intention theory, this last one, 29, right. Bibas says right. Aditya agrees. Shanu says right. And right you are. Yeah, if you understand the author's meaning, it's clear. And you say, hey, I can see that the author here simply painted a child playing with a ball. That's what it is. The author is, and the critic is right. Okay, down to the last question. Now, the last question is absolutely forcing you to use your logic. This listening section 3, as you're realizing, is not just testing your English skills, but it's testing your ability to think, to use your mind, to use your logic. So this one, you had to give the answer from your own understanding. So an art critic is viewing a painting for the first time and wants to critique, so wants to discuss it, using the subjective meaning theory, meaning his own position. Determine whether the critic has satisfied the constraints of the theory with regard to his critique of the painting. Okay? So here we go. The critic looks at the painting for a moment and concludes from his initial impression that the painting lacks aesthetic value, so it's not beautiful. A, the critic has satisfied the demands of the theory, or B, the critic has not satisfied the demands of the theory. A or B? I look at a painting for a second and go, that's not beautiful. No good. Again, it's this moment. This answer actually is very similar to one that you saw on the table. So the correct answer here is most likely B. Okay. All right. We'll look at the answer sheet at the end so you know exactly how you did. But let's talk a little bit about strategy for these more difficult listening sections. Okay. The first strategy that I want to add to yesterday's list is use logic. Okay? It works. Now, you have to practice that at home, okay? You have to practice your skills for logic within the IELTS at home. Often, when you look at the questions and the available information carefully, you can figure out a lot of the answers without even hearing the audio. So you can go, oh, okay, I get what this is going, what's happening here. So use logic. It works. Compare information among the questions to help you figure out answers. Now, if you miss this during the actual listening, so you're going, Adrian, I can't do that. I'm trying to listen to what they're saying. I'm trying to hear the answer. And then I'm like, I missed it. And then I'm trying to use logic at the same time. That's crazy. You're asking me to do too much. I'm not superhuman. I can't do that. It's not true. First of all, you are superhuman. I believe in you. And secondly, if you can't do it while you're listening, don't panic. Just try to do it for the missed questions in your 10-minute transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Okay, so if you cannot apply logic while you listen because it's too fast, you have a second chance during the 10 minutes at the end of the listening when you transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Okay? So that's your time to apply that logic. Okay? So don't panic. Again, just stay relaxed. You'll have a second chance. Okay, now, hi Manisha, good to see you in class. To develop your logic, so to improve your critical thinking, use the transcripts at the back of the book. If you're studying from good IELTS materials and good books, you should have transcripts at the back of the book. Here, I'll show you what I mean. So here in our book, if we go to, I think it'll be maybe 160-ish, the page. Yeah, so here we have our transcripts for yesterday's class. So yesterday we did listening 1 and 2. And then if I keep going here, some of this is in black font still, but just give me a moment and I will get to listening section. Oh, there we go. Okay. So here you have CD6, track 3. Some of this is in black font because it's for these live projections, but here you have the host, right? So the host is saying, all right, welcome back, everyone. Let me increase the size here so you can read that a little bit better. Welcome back, everyone. Our next guest is the curator of a major art gallery in the city who has just released his second book on the virtues of art. Second book, you realize that the first answer must have been 2. We're pleased to have Mr. Edgar Patterson here today. Welcome to the show, sir. Make sure you use these transcripts in the back of the book to practice your listening skills and to improve your logical thinking. So here, notice that here Mr. Edgar says, well, yes, it deals with the aesthetic value of different painting styles. And then here it says, yes, my book does take a position and a rather radical one. So probably the answer for that one was B, radical, because it's a radical position. It's not just a position. Okay. And then it keeps going here, and you can look for that logic. Okay. So you can compare the answers, find the reasons for the answers, and then compare the logic. So use the transcripts in the back of the book if you have difficulty understanding the listening. Okay, so that's a very important second strategy here. This was 4, so this is 5. Use the transcripts in the back of your exam books to enhance your listening skills and your logic for figuring out questions. Okay? It's a very, very useful tool. All right? Okay, so that's a couple more strategies. So again, use logic, use the transcripts, enhance your listening skills, okay? You can use the transcripts in different ways. If your English is still improving, your intermediate level, for sections 3 and 4, you might want to read the transcripts first and then listen. If you are more advanced or you feel confident in the IELTS listening, then you can listen, give your answers, and then read the transcripts after to get a more detailed idea. And then you might want to listen again and read the transcripts while you listen, okay? So again, use the same materials in different ways, dynamic ways to have effective learning, all right? Okay, everyone. So let's go on to listening section 4. This is the final section, so get your pencils, pens, paper ready. We are going to listen again. Please, I ask you, do not write your answers into the chat. Wait till the end. Give everybody a fair chance, and we'll go through them together once we're done. So here we go. All right. Let's hop back to the website. So if you're a member of our premium course on our website, then this will be CD6, listening section 4. So it's track 4. All right. Volume's max on my end, so if it's quiet, just turn up the volume on your end.
Now turn to section 4. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
Here, I'll be fair with you and start that again. I know that's a little bit a problem when you can't... Here, let me just read.
Now turn to section 4. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listening section 4. You will hear a lecture about road infrastructure and its connection to economic prosperity. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Roads have been connected to economic prosperity for millennia. The first roads were thought to have been created by repeated animal grazing and then utilized by humans as ready-made routes for travel between adjacent lands. These roads, evidence for which exists going back 12,000 years, were likely not connected so much to economic prosperity as to survival itself. These roads allowed hunter-gatherers faster access to greater swaths of land. The first paved roads were used in ancient Egypt about 4,500 years ago. Historians theorize that these roads were the first roads used for trade in our history. These roads also would have been used to transport items, such as building supplies. Though rivers were much more practical thoroughfares for the transport of goods, certain goods from certain areas could not be transported by boat, and this necessitated the creation of roads for economic reasons. The Silk Road, though not precisely a road, is one of the most famous trade routes in history. Composed of many types of road, the Silk Road stretched from China and Thailand in the east, all the way through the Middle East and terminating in Western Europe. These different routes of the Silk Road brought myriad items from the east to the west, including, of course, silk. This brought economic prosperity to China and surrounding regions for many centuries. The Silk Road was so valuable for commerce that it persisted for over 1,500 years. The Roman Empire was the first major manufacturer of a system of roads. At its height, the Roman Empire contained 29 major roads, totaling over 75,000 kilometers. That's enough road to go around the world twice. Notably, this is almost the precise total length of the modern United States interstate highway system. These roads connected the vast lands of the empire and brought an intertwined economic prosperity to the diverse regions of the empire. Furthermore, the roads were used for military transportation, giving the Romans a massive strategic advantage over their less advanced adversaries. Through the Middle Ages, roads continued to be built and used for trade and commerce, though technological advances were virtually non-existent. Though tar-based roads were used briefly in the Arab Empire in the 8th century, this technology would not take off for another millennium. Today, our roads and highways connect our communities, countries, and economies. They are the modern trade routes by which we are all connected to each other. The modern world would not be possible without the vast expanse of road infrastructure. One interesting development in the history of road infrastructure was the advent of underground systems. The first such system, the London Underground, opened in 1863. Such subterranean routes greatly increase the volume of human life that a city can sustain, thus increasing that city's economic output. London would not be a fraction of the economic powerhouse it is today without its underground rail system. The same can be said for virtually every other major economic centre. Underground systems are the next generation of economic generators. While roads move goods which create economic prosperity, underground systems move human capital, which creates further economic prosperity. What is the next great advance in ground transportation? Some futurists have theorized about a system of tubes propelled by air pressure or other means, which would transport individuals vast distances in short times. Such a system could move humans at unprecedented speeds, perhaps with an economic footprint far less than that of subterranean networks. Such tubes could even be built underwater. Imagine such a system connecting New York to London or Tokyo to San Francisco. It would be incredible. Whatever lies ahead for humanity, roads have gotten us to where we are, and they are very likely to play a prominent role in getting us to where we will be next, in one form or another.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
And again, remember what I said yesterday, that you should use that half minute to check your answers and not look at the ceiling or the specks on the ground and the floor in front of you. Stay focused throughout the entire IELTS exam. It's important to practice that at home, the focus. So that was about roads and typical listening section 4. Notice how it's a little bit different from section 1, 2, and 3 in that there's no pause. So you answer all 10 questions in one go, okay? There's no pausing. So here, let's go back to the beginning. Let's answer these together, and then we'll talk a little bit more strategy with this section 4 here. All right. So, students, write no more than 2 words for each answer. What phenomenon created the first roads? What phenomenon created the first roads? Biba Thapa says animal grazing created the first roads. Jeffrey agrees. It's animal grazing. Absolutely. So here you just have to make sure that your spelling is correct. Animal grazing is good. Capitals here don't matter. They're just proper nouns. Naveen, if you write it all capital letter like that, it's good too. So animal grazing. Absolutely. Grazing, for those of you that are not familiar with that word, means eating. Basically, when animals are chewing along on the grass, you see a cow or a horse nibbling on the grassy field. They're grazing away. So animal grazing. All right. Number 32. Though roads were necessary for the first though roads were necessary for the transportation of many goods, what was a much more practical thoroughfare for the transport of goods in ancient times? If you're a visual person and you use some good logic, exactly like Pac-Man, that's grazing, you should get 32, no problem. Daxil Chowdhury says rivers. Yeah, boats, using boats on rivers, absolutely. Now, there's a very good reason for that too, right? The power of gravity is a very nice friend if you are able to use rivers. You pack up the boat, you can take a lot of cargo, and away you go with the current. Now, of course, going back up the river might be a little bit more difficult, but going downriver, very effective. So obviously our ancestors figured that out pretty early on and used it perhaps even earlier than roads for transporting a large amount of goods. Okay, good. So animal grazing and rivers. Okay, this one here, you had to be a little bit patient. Now, that's another important tip for Section 3 and Section 4 is you need to be patient with some of the answers. Don't rush. Sometimes you have to wait a minute or 30 seconds before you hear the next answer. 33 is one question. You have to get this correct to get the 1 point. Which of these roads total approximately 75,000 kilometers? And then your answers are A, 1 and 3, B, 1, 2, 3, and 4, or C, 1, 3, and 4. So the United States interstate system, the ancient Egyptian road network, the ancient Roman road network, or the Silk Road. Is it A, United States and the ancient road network, or all of them, or 3 of them? If you're paying attention, yeah, you should have figured out that that was A. That's right. So those of you giving the answer A, you are correct. It said that the ancient Roman road network totaled 29 roads, I believe is what he said. The 29 main roads in the road network was 75,000 kilometers. Yeah, and you can figure that out because you need a bit of advancement, right? The Roman Empire was quite advanced, especially for its time. And I mean, to build 75,000 kilometers of road, you really need a very advanced and collected society to achieve that. So the Romans were the first to reach that level of development. Okay, questions 34 to 35. What were 2 benefits of the Roman system of roads? So, hey, the Romans built these roads, fantastic. Why was that good for the Romans? A, economic prosperity for the city of Rome, increased mobility of the Roman armies, rapid technological advances, the importation of luxury goods from China, or broad economic prosperity for the empire. And here you have to choose 2 letters. The order does not matter. Okay, some of you said A and B. Pradeep says A and B. Shipup says A and B. Pinda says B and C. Mahak says A and B. Be very careful. So this is another tip. Pay attention to detail. Okay, pay attention to detail. A lot of you are getting this question wrong. Economic prosperity for the city of Rome. Rome was an empire, ladies and gentlemen. Today, Rome is a city, but many, many years ago, Rome was not a city. It was a country, and it was more than a country. It was a set of nations together under one empire. So, empire, you see the word there. E is the correct answer. Roman armies and the empire. So the 2 letters here are B and E. Careful, if it seems too good to be true, it often is. Okay? If it seems too good to be true, it often is. Caution. All right. Let's take a look at the last set of questions here. So this one, 36 to 40, you had to figure out if the question is connected to applying to ancient roads, subway systems, future transportation, or all of the above. Now, this is a sentence completion type, and logic, what we talked about in the last section, will help you a lot here. 36. increases economic activity? Ancient roads, subway systems, future transportation, or all of them? What do you think? Which one of these actually increases economic activity? Pradeep, very good. You're using some good logic there. Yeah, D, all of them, absolutely. Old roads, Roman empires, subway systems, yeah. Future, you can bet you that they're going to continue to work on economic implications. So D is definitely a good choice there for number 36. 37, responsible for the growth of modern cities. So the cities of today. Ancient roads, subway systems, future transportation. What is the best answer here? For the growth of modern cities, so cities of today. Yeah, subway systems, right? Subway systems are helping the cities of today grow. So not old cities. Ancient roads helped to become modernized, but they're not helping the growth of modern cities. Okay, 38, used for military transportation. Applies to ancient roads, subway systems, or future transportation, or all of them. Number 38. What's the best answer? Jeffrey says, I think that's A. Divya agrees. Yeah, A. Okay, hopefully we're not going to use future roads for military transportation. In fact, there's so many drones flying around that military will probably just fly everything in the future as they are doing today. Hopefully we don't use subway systems for military, although I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, 39, moves human capital, so moves humans. Ancient roads, subway systems, future transportation. Last one, A, B, C, or D. Or sorry, we have 40. So moves human capital. Moves human capital. B, and it's an interesting one. Some of you might say, hey, why isn't that all of them? Why isn't this one all of them? So why is 39 not all of them? Can somebody tell me that before we go to 40? Why does 39, I mean, ancient roads moved people around and future roads move people around or will move people around. Why would 39, why would the student make a mistake to choose D? So I'm getting a lot of answers here. Not quite, Jubilant. I mean, arguably all of those roads do move human capital. Yeah, it's true, Jeffrey, that it is the main purpose of the subway, but it's still not the reason. I mean, ancient roads, and you remember the tube system of the future that they were describing was kind of saying, hey, people will be flying around in these air pressure tubes, so that could be it as well. There's something else that tells me that it has to be B, and it can't be D for number 39. Anybody? It's an important point here, and you could really easily save yourself a couple of marks during your IELTS exam if you figure out why 39 has to be B and cannot be D. Okay, I love how you're not giving up, Jeffrey. Good for you. It's the tense. Have a look at the verb. It's moves. Moves is present tense. Okay. Ancient roads, they moved. So that would be moved. And future roads haven't happened yet, so they will move. Human capital. So here it's the tense of the verb that confirms that it has to be, right? Because if I read it as a full sentence, so subway systems today move human capital. Subway moves human capital, okay? So again, verb tense, careful with that, okay? This would be will move. So Ahmed's saying, what about C? It should say will move human capital. If it said will move human capital, then it would be C. Okay? then it has to have the future participle. Okay, last one, number 40. Will move humans at unprecedented speeds around the world. And there you go, with that future participle. Yeah, Bibas, very good. So now you realize that, oh, wait a second, that has to be because we have the will move. So that confirms the answer C. Good for you. Yeah, Jubilant says C, no doubt, if you check that tense. Okay, so pay attention to these little details, these little points, and remembering these during your IELTS exam, and especially during your review time when you're transferring answers to your answer sheet, can really help catch some silly mistakes and improve your band score. Just catching one mistake like this could mean the difference between a 6.5 and a 7, or a 7 and a 7.5, okay? So it does matter, all right? So just a couple of notes real quick before we look at the answer keys for today's questions, and then we'll add up for the total band score, okay? So that last tip there, it was pay attention to the tense of verbs in questions, as these can hint for answers, okay? And then another tip that I gave you, hopefully you remember this too, is you need to be patient at times and wait a few seconds for the answers in part 3 and 4. Okay, so careful with that. All right, so have your answers ready for today's section 3 and 4. We'll look at the answer sheet. Now you can mark yourself, and then we can figure out your band scores in a moment here. So here we go. Let me just bring up our answer key. You'll always find that, of course, with the transcripts in the back of the book. 180, here we go. All right, so starting with 21. So here we go. Have a look. Bum, 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 there we are. Okay, so 21 was B, 22 was B, so it was a radical theory, not a position. So B, B, A, A, okay, those were the first four. Meaning for number 25. Number 26, merely. If you wrote all of these in capital letters, that's okay. If you just wrote the M or the M in capital letter, you shouldn't count that mark because they're probably marked that wrong. So all capitals are all small, okay? Same with 27, 28, it's okay if you write it big for the first letter. So 27 is wrong, 28 is wrong, 29 is right. 30 is B. 31 is animal grazing. 32 is rivers. Has to be plural. Okay, if it's not plural, if you just wrote river, you will not get that mark. 33 is A. 34 and 35 are B and E. 36 is D. 37 B. 38 A. 39 B. And 40 is C. Okay, did everybody get that? Was that a little bit too fast? Everybody have a chance to check your marks there? Okay, so take a second here, students. Add up your marks from listening section 1 and 2 from yesterday. Again, if some of our viewers missed yesterday's class, you can check that out. That video is still up on the channel. Okay, so add up your marks from 40. And then I'll take a look and give you a band score here. If you go to the website, aehelp.com or gieltshelp.com, at the bottom here, got it max and large. At the bottom here, you see that score calculator button. So you can tap that if you got touch screen, or you can click on it if you're using a computer. And then boom, you'll get this score calculator, which is a bit bright in the projector, so don't worry, I'll darken us up a little bit. You can see that more clearly. I will be a shadow man here for a moment, so you can see what's going on. So here you can enter in your raw score right over here, and that will give you your band score, okay? This calculates your band score. So let's see how you did, okay? So somebody with Cyrillic there says 25 out of 40. So 25 out of 40 is a band 6, okay? Jubilant says, hey, I got 35. 35 is very nice, Jubilant. That's a band score of 8. Okay, I'll try to, here, let's get that bigger. There you go. All right, Pradeep Padu says, I got 34. 34 is 7.5, so that's the difference between 34 and 35. 34, 7.5. 35, that's an 8. If you can pick up that extra mark, Pradeep, you get that 8. Okay, Kung Kom says 28. Kung Kom, 28 is 6.5. Bibas Tepa and Human Pro says 31. 31 is a band score 7. Okay. Shucksnoza, 29 is a band 6.5. Okay. Sidra Rizwan, 20. 20 is 5.5. So if you get half the questions correct, you got a 5.5. Okay. Again, really try to pick up as many marks as you can in part 1 and 2. If you got 17 correct, you got a 5. Mahak Preet, that's a 5, okay? All right, so let's just get the brightness back here and pop back over to our notes, okay? So again, here are 7 different tips and strategies from yesterday's and today's class to help you improve your listening band score. Tomorrow, we're doing speaking part 1 and 2. Make sure to join us. It's 15 to 16 o'clock Central European time, same time as today. Again, you can join our premium courses at aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Thank you, students, for participating. I know it's challenging to listen to information like this in another language. I could only imagine how difficult it would be in some of the languages that you speak that I'm not familiar with. But remember, it's great to know English. You can communicate with a big part of the world once you learn it well. It's worthwhile. You will and can live a more prosperous life knowing English. I believe in you. You can do it. Believe in yourself. Keep studying. And hopefully I will see all of you tomorrow. You're very welcome, Jeffrey. You're very welcome. Everyone else, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye, Binda. Great night, good sleep to those of you who are getting ready for bed. Much love to all of you.